welcome everyone to another episode of the Mere Mortals Meanderings. You've got Kyron here in Brazil.
And you have one over here in Australia.
Brilliant. And we're recording here on the 7th of September 2024. And a Meanderings episode is where we just talk about little bits and pieces, funny stuff that's going on with life perhaps, random topics, because I'm traveling still at the moment. It's a bit hard to really dial down into particular topics like we used to do with musings. So indeed today I've got some funny ones, Juan. I've actually prepped quite a lot for this one. So I titled this episode, let me find the actual title that I gave it. Nobody tells you this about Brazil. I was trying to make it a little bit clickbaity as well. So Juan, if you had to guess, I've got 4 things here. What are the 4 things that no one tells you about Brazil?
Oh. Well, see, I'll tell you what I think most often people think, right? It's beaches, it's really good-looking girls walking around in bikinis.
Yep, correct. The big
maybe
bundas.
the food, and
Yeah, the food.
I'm thinking some sort of robbery or something like that. So maybe things that they don't tell you is that not every girl is walking around in a bikini and there's a 9 out of 10.
All right. Well, it's like kind of close with some of those, but I'll jump right into them. So I'll start off all of these ones with a question, and then you can try and answer it from there. So why did I not have a single incident of danger here? As in, I've never really felt unsafe. I've never had anything bad to me. Why do you think the reason that is?
Maybe because you haven't been out at night that much.
True. This is true. Part of it. But it's actually one because I am the danger. And so I've talked about this before, but the tattoo thing here is just out of this world. I thought, okay, I'll go away for a bit. I'll see America. You know, I'll go to Canada. That'll kind of refresh me again. And then when I come back to Brazil, I'll probably be like, oh, okay, they don't actually have that many tattoos. I was just cherry picking or something. But no, my conviction is stronger than ever that Brazilians have the most tattoos I've ever seen. It is shocking how many that they are, and the statistics I've seen online don't seem to capture this. And the reason that I think I am the danger is the tattoo equals bad boy equation, which when we were kids is what my dad used to tell me about. Be like, oh, you know, tattoos are for like bikies and for like dangerous people, and you know, for like lower class people, perhaps, something like that. That equation, as the first time I heard this theory of the inversion of this was from our mutual friend Joey, where he was saying, no, it's actually now more socially kind of risque to do the opposite. If you don't have a tattoo, people are like, oh, whoa, like he's defying the cultural norms and things. So this has obviously been inverted here, and my lack of ink signifies to people, like, watch the fuck out for this guy. He could be loco. Like, he obviously does not fit in here, and he's probably a bad boy. So I'm more hard than the souls of a street urchin in a Rio favela. That's how hard I am. And just to like bring this all together. Okay, here's a couple of stories. So I'm walking down the street. It's probably like Thursday afternoon, 5 p.m. or something like that. You know, people are going to and fro from work, stuff like this. And I see a girl coming down the street, and I would describe her as like girl next door, white sundress, no makeup, bright-eyed, straight hair, probably like about 20 years old. And she is sporting a full fucking sleeve, man. Just a beast of an arm with like, she's not strong or anything, you know, it's just her arm. She has a full sleeve on it. And it's, you know how you can kind of tell when tattoos like a little bit different as well. There's some which are particularly like, you know, tribal ones, and some which, so you can kind of get a feel for like, oh, okay, this is what this person's about a little bit. Well, her tattoo was just like, if I saw that on a guy in Australia, I'd be like, this dude's part of a bikie gang for sure. Like, this guy is gonna he's gonna fuck
It was
you
one
up.
of those full-on ones.
Yeah, it was absurd, man. And just the contrast between everything about her and then seeing it was almost more jarring seeing her arm with a tattoo than if she just had no arm. Like if she just had no arm, I would probably find that more congruent. But it was just absurd, man. I was in a restaurant and I was looking around once, and from of the roughly 15 people I could see, only 4 of them didn't have tattoos, and that was 4 who potentially could
There were
have.
4 babies.
4 babies, yeah. Um, that was 4 who could have had tattoos, and just they were more under the clothes and stuff. There's this dude just this like 2 days ago. He was running. I thought he was wearing stockings, but no, he just had like leg tattoos that look like stockings. It is absurd, man. It is so crazy. I can't believe people don't talk about this more. Have you ever been anywhere where you've has seen anything like that, or it's like a
No, I was just running through my mind then. What are the places I've been to that might come close, and like as mentioning, nowhere where it's the almost like overwhelming population has tattoos, because you can single out like certain maybe places and individuals in Japan. There's yeah, like I've seen it a bit sometimes when I was in North America, the USA, but yeah, not to what you're describing, where basically every single person has a visible tattoo. Is it a case though that there's more skin showing in Brazil, so then you see the obvious tattoos?
No, I don't think so, because they wear long pants here sufficiently enough. The only thing I could kind of say is where I exercise normally is near a kind of alternate bar, so I am going to get a bit of people coming to that, and so walking to that, and so then I'll see them. So if you're into like alternative lifestyle, you're probably more likely to have tattoos. But even then, it's just I see it on the streets, I see it in the shopping malls, I see it when I'm going out. It's just there is just a lot, man. There is a lot. So that is why I kind of guess that I'm so hard and have avoided danger so far.
Well, absolutely, but yeah, I have never ever heard that. I guess I've never like inquired into it before. But even if you had to ask me like in a general trivia question, what's the country that's the most tattooed, or in general, I don't know if Brazil would have come up at all. I would have actually thought it was the opposite.
Yeah. I would have probably guessed maybe like an islander nation, perhaps. Papua New Guinea or Samoa or something like that. Or even one of the smaller ones, Tonga maybe. But yeah, just a very strange cultural observation, which I just never heard of. So that was the first one. To understand this,
by the way, a quick Google of it as well. I don't know if I even believe this, but it says as part of a tattoo statistic from Disappeared Inc., it actually says that the country with the highest percentage of tattooed people is Italy.
Oh yeah, okay.
Which even that I'm like, what? I don't see that. I haven't been to Italy, but 2, again, it's kind of like the culture that comes to my mind doesn't equate to lots of tattoos. But there you go. So maybe that's what it is. Some of these places that we least expected, plenty of tattoos. But there you go. Karen's a harder motherfucker in Brazil. That's number one.
I've actually been thinking a lot of those types of surveys. When I think about it, and I go, how would I respond to a question if I was to respond to one of these? I would probably take the question as literally as I could, and so it would be like, have you ever had a tattoo? And I'd maybe go, well, I had one of those fake tattoos once. Does that count? And then the person doing the thing would be like, you have to interpret it in your own way or something like that. So I'd probably just go yes. So this is why a lot of this self-reported stuff as well, I'm kind of skeptical on. So yeah, there we go. Right, Juan, you should do well in this next one, because to understand this next cultural phenomena, we're going to have to get our chemistry textbooks. And Juan was actually pretty good at chemistry in high school. I think he might have got the best grades. So Juan, Why do Brazilians have soggy ice cream?
Why do Brazilians have soggy ice cream?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Do they not store it in the Baladi fridge?
So they store it in the fridge. They do that. But the reason I believe that they have soggy ice cream is no one here, from what I gather so far, seems to really have a proper freezer. They seem to have these kind of fridges with a little compartment at the top, which you open, which is slightly colder than the fridge, but it's not.
But not cold
It's
enough.
not cold enough, and so my observation is that all their freezers are designed to hit the triple point of water. So here comes the chemistry. What is the triple point of water one?
The triple point of water. Shit. Is it where they it's like the point where just between water going to ice?
So it's where it can kind of exist as all three states of a thing. So between the gas, a solid, and liquid, if you've got the pressure and temperature at the kind of right point, I guess is what you call it. So the triple point of water. Do you know what temperature this is? Either in Kelvin or Celsius.
Well, like 0 degree, like slightly above 0 degrees.
Yeah, there we go. 0.01 degrees Celsius or 273.16 Kelvin.
Yep.
So my theory is that the reason they do this is they seem to like to have beers, like congealed beers. So where it's kind of, it's like a slushy almost. So it's like a slushy type beer. So when they buy beers, they chuck them in these places, and sure enough, they become this kind of slushy drink, and it, you open it and it doesn't explode, that sort of deal. And so I think they sacrifice their ice cream to be able to have congealed beers is essentially what I think.
Right. So what they're doing is they're prioritizing.
Correct.
Their congealed slushy-like beers for soggy ice cream.
Yeah, and so when you put ice cream in the freezer, it's already kind of melting by the time you get it. You take a scoop out, you put it on the bowl or the plate or whatever, and it's already starting to melt. Yeah. So this is a cultural phenomena I hadn't anticipated nor heard of before. Is it that good or that bad? Me personally, I don't think I would take the sacrifice for the beers to have it like this, to have my ice cream sacrificed. But
Do you like an ice cream to be rock hard? Not
rock hard, but I like it when it's certainly harder than what it is here. Maybe as hard as I am. that's how hard I like it. So
I hate sloppy ice cream, man. I hate when you scoop, like when the ice cream either hasn't been in the freezer for long enough, or you get it out and it sits there for a little bit too long. You slop it into your plate, it just becomes liquid, man. I hate that.
Or even a kind of a scam, which is I don't think many people would agree with, but I think is slightly scammy, is ice cream on a hot day. You get your ice cream cone and it's already melting by the time you're starting to eat it, and instead of enjoying the ice cream, you're just doing cleanup the whole time, just trying to make sure it doesn't run down your hands. So
that's a good point.
I think ice creams are best taken in like winter, not winter, but in spring and in autumn. That's probably the best time for ice creams, personally.
That's good advice.
Okay, another question for you, Juan. Why? What happens to Brazilians on a Sunday morning?
What happens to Brazilians on a Sunday morning? I would have just defaulted to saying that they go to church.
Okay. This is what I thought as well. And this is partly the answer, but my observation is that it's not that they go to church, it's that they do not exist. Brazilians do not exist on a Sunday morning. So I've asked around, because what I've observed is I'll go out on a Sunday morning, everything opens up later. Like all the shops and stuff will open at midday, for example. So no one's out shopping or anything like that. It's like, okay, all right, that's slightly different to Australia. You know, people are probably going to be shopping on a Sunday morning. I'll go out on the streets. I won't really see anyone there. You barely see any cars around, and I'm not sure what people do. And every time I've asked someone like, man, you must all go to the to church on Sunday morning or something. They're like, man, not really. You know, some people do, but not that many. And I'm just like, well, where the fuck is everyone? Because I don't know where they are. Do they sleep in? Do they go for secret hikes? They're either some sort of Sunday vampire, a vampire who only feels the effects on a Sunday, or all 212 million have agreed to play a trick on the silly gringo and are laughing behind my back.
Just on you.
That's the only explanations are coming out. Because look, and I'm exaggerating, I do see some people, but it's significantly less than what you would see any other day, and I've yet to hear a good explanation from anyone on what they're all actually doing on Sunday mornings. I just don't know. So yeah.
But I mean, there's a general consensus that I would have to assume is that everyone just sleeps in on Sundays.
But I've asked that as well. It's like, so everyone sleep in? Do you stay in house? And they're like, no. Like, we just do our normal stuff. I'm like, no, you don't. That's bullshit. I don't see any of you around.
I haven't seen you.
So anyway, that's one. There's Brazilian vampires all around us. My last one here is a joke. So, why did the chicken cross the Brazilian road?
I don't know. Why did it?
To join Schrodinger's cat. So what happens here is when you step on a Brazilian road, you exist in the superposition of life and death. There is no... You're neither alive nor dead when you step on a Brazilian road, because zebra crossings, for example, and this happens whether you're in the car or outside of the car, on a bike or outside of a bike, even to some extent on any surface that looks semi-road-like. So I'll start with the zebra crossings. I think that they're kind of like people have just painted black and white on the road to add to the metaphor of life and death. And they're more examples of like, this is maybe a nice place to cross the street. You're not going to get any protection. Like these mean no rules. And it's not even like consistently. I would be okay if it's like zebra crossings don't mean anything. Here's just a place where you could cross the street, and you always just have to wait. But it's like half of the time. Half of the time a car will stop for you, and then half of the time it won't. So
you can't even predictably say that, oh yes, at this location I can do this, because the
it's not
data you're seeing is like at some points they're going to beep at you because you're not going, and then the other time you're going to go and then you're going to be flattened on the pavement.
Yeah, it's not based on location, and you'll see this as well where there'll be I've had it once where so there's this how many lanes is it? It's a three lane road on each side where I have to cross. Now, one side it's backed up by the traffic lights, and so I can always cross there because the cars get three deep, and then they leave a little bit of space for the crossing, so you can get across there. Fine. The other side of the road is where cars are entering into it from this kind of roundabout slash. They combine roundabouts here with traffic lights. Once again, this is kind of like a weird, unique Brazilian thing, much like their merging system, which I've talked about before. And in this one, you'll get three cars all coming off this roundabout all at this one time on this pedestrian crossing. So it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to wait. But what will generally happen is one or two of the cars will slow down noticeably, put on their traffic lights, the hazard lights, and come to a stop. So it's like, okay, they're obviously letting me through. And then the other lane will just continue to like keep going. So I'm now the jackass because I'm not crossing the road when people are waiting for me because I don't want to die. But they're also like getting visibly annoyed because they stopped for me and I'm not crossing the road. And so then they go. And it's like, well, what the fuck do you want me to do? So this happens all the time. The middle of the street is a valid parking spot. You are allowed to park in the middle of the street. I have seen this way too many times, particularly Uber drivers. And then probably like the most random one. So yesterday I went for a walk by the lake, and it's got kind of this like dirt road, enough to fit like a car and a half on it, all the way along this lake, and it's very obvious, only meant for pedestrians. Yet you will continually encounter like police, particularly police, but sometimes maintenance crews as well, just randomly coming along in a car. And it just reminds me of like, man, Brazil, how it's a good thing that I don't have any like too many crazy Muslim people here who are like, plowing into people like that person did in Nice. I think it was in 2016. Because, man, there's just so many times where cars are mixing with pedestrians on what should just be pedestrian kind of only turf. And it freaks me out, man. Honestly, like I kind of keep a lookout just for cars, even on places where you shouldn't expect them, because it's all it just takes is for someone to not look and then like slow crush to death or something because they didn't see you or whatever. So
yeah, well, it's almost like in an inverse way. It's almost expected for you to see cars in an unusual location or for them to appear in an unusual location. So, I mean, for most people who are listening to the podcast as well, probably generally from places like Australia or America, and so maybe your expectation is, yes, car goes on road, continues moving, and humans and individuals are on the pedestrian crossing and stuff like that, safely on the pedestrian side as well. But like I can attest, I've been to other countries as well, which defies the laws of what a car and a human is, and since we're blended together, you're both kind of able to do whatever the hell you want to do, which would be scary, especially if someone who has only ever interacted with, one country's specific laws of how to move around. This was another reason next year I'm planning to drive a lot in Italy, and a lot of the feedback and things that I hear is, oh yeah, be prepared for it to be chaos. Everyone's beeping, everyone's driving like maniacs.
I've heard this.
And kind of similar to what you're saying though, I'm a little bit like, I feel like it's coming from a very, hey, I've only ever driven in Australia or in America before, or something like that, where it's probably more usual that driving is like what you're describing, right? Where, looks like, Peter over here has decided to park in the middle of an 80-kilometer zone. That's cool. Let's go around him and try and avoid this human trying to go across the pedestrian crossing. So I feel like that's more, I would almost say that's more of the normal across the world than the standard driving that we may see. But in any case, you have to kind of just become acutely aware of what's going on around the road.
I think each country has its own flavor to the driving as well, because I would actually say in general, I'm rather impressed with Brazilian driving. The randomness of the roads, the merging, I find the architecture of it, for me, screams that you're going to have car accidents all the time here. It just screams to me, this is poorly designed, people are going to get hurt. But I've found that they seem to merge pretty well with each other. They seem to anticipate. People will go and weave in and out of lanes in a certain respect. Bike riders do not respect red lights. They just go straight through them if they feel like it. Yet there seems to be a bit more, dare I say, safety in all of it. I actually feel, even though I exist in this superposition between life and death, I don't necessarily feel unsafe. In another contrast, when I was in Canada, when I was on the roads there, everyone was following the rules to the letter. They weren't swerving in and out of lanes on kind of just rural pedestrian areas, suburban areas, things like that. Car parking, car lots, everyone, Peter in his car lot, to get into it, there was this random stop sign. Absolutely unneeded. there's no he it's on private property. He was telling me you can't even have, you don't have to obey the laws on private property for car signage and things like that. You can do what you want. Yet everyone would stop at this stop sign. But when they got onto the highway, man, those people were jackasses. Canadians on highways were fucking terrifying, because that was when you would see pretty consistently a dude doing 40 k's an hour more than everyone else, zigzagging in and out of traffic, and it was just consistent. Every time we went on the highway, I saw at least one person doing that. So I think there's, and you know, if I compare Brazilian driving to Colombian, man, Brazil's basically like Australia. You know, the Colombian driving is awful. It's terrible. If I compare Colombian to Mexican is kind of tranquil, but then they've got just, you know, random spots where it's like, oh no, we're blocking off the road because we're protesting some sort of thing. If you try to go through it, we will shoot you. And so everyone kind of knows a hidden back route way to get to wherever they need to go. I remember I was in a van. It was like a combi van, probably like nine-ish people in it, of us in there. Yeah. And yeah, sure enough, I don't know if they were protesters or if it was like gang related or whatever the reason, they blocked off the main highway. And so the guy is just like, I know what to do, and drives us through. I was scared the van would tip over, man. It was that, you know, these inclined dirt roads. Scary. It was scary in a kind of like, in a nice way almost, because it's like, all right, well, at least I'm going to die in like surrounded by cactuses and dirt roads and shit. Like, at least this feels like Mexico. But in Colombia, you're just going to die in like suburban street. Patricia says, if you drive in Colombia, you can drive anywhere. So I believe her in this.
My mum saying that quite often, that if you can drive in Colombia, you can drive in.
I've yet to be to India or Southeast Asia though, so I've yet to see. And you know, compare Japan driving to anywhere else, and you know, Australia looks like Colombia compared to Japan. So
yeah, no, look, and maybe I didn't go to the correct places, but in Thailand, Hong Kong was pretty like orderly, but Thailand driving, like, it wasn't as chaotic as I can imagine maybe places like Colombia and some of the others to be like. Same thing with Malaysia, like that was relatively fine. So, but maybe I haven't gone to like, you know, the depth of, as you say, probably driving in maybe in India might be probably heaps more chaotic. So we can't call it there, but yeah, certainly I think a lot of Latin American countries do rightfully have a bit of a moniker for not being the easiest to drive around.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are my main observations, Juan, of Brazil. There's bits and pieces as well, you know. I don't know if this is just based on the locations I've been, but instead of having hot water tanks like most of us do, they have these kind of installed hot water heater things where the water comes through in the actual shower. So each shower will have this kind of white, imagine like a white toilet lid almost sort of contraption that is where the water gets piped out of, and you know, you dial that and turn that, and that will be how you control the water coming out. I'm sure there's places which have more kind of standard, like, and so most of them will just have a one tap. You just turn on the water to full blast, and cold water comes out, and then you fiddle with this thing to get the hot water coming out. So there's that. Other than that, those are probably the main things that I don't think anyone tells you about when you come to Brazil. Those have been my observations so far.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've never ever heard of that, especially, which is kind of nice, right? It's kind of nice that talking about just traveling to a country or to a new place. These are the things that you pick up when you're not just there for, you know, 2 or 3 days. If you'd gone to Brazil, let's just say Rio or somewhere else, and you'd stayed there for maybe even a week, the things you would have picked up are the usual things most people pick up. And in talking about them on a podcast or talking about it with friends or sharing stories, it would have been very similar to the same thing you hear. And that's what you go, oh, yeah, Brazil, this is this. But it's not until you stay at a place for an extended amount of time, and I'm going to say at least a fortnight, because then you get to see a full weekly cycle, and then you get to validate it with the new weekly cycle. So at least a fortnight where you start to go, oh yeah, I can see some of the intricacies and the details that, you know, don't form part of your initial view when it really looks just like a holiday, which is kind of at the same time a lot of people say. I was talking to someone last weekend, about how they mentioned, oh, you know, we really want to move to Melbourne, you know, and I was kind of prying, asking, you know, why do you want to move to Melbourne? You know, what's the reason? It's, oh, you know, it's a big city, and you know, some of the dinner places, they open later, so it's more lively, which, look, part of that is true, but I kind of wanted to keep on asking them, and I was asking them, you know, more details around, well, okay, yeah, maybe that is true, it is true, but what are the other, you know, what are the other reasons, what are the other lifestyles that, you know, you'd be living, because they live in a fine location here in up in Queensland, down the Gold Coast, you know, near the beach. So, you know, have you thought of, you know, what that looks like, what beaches they look like, what the day-to-day there looks like, all that sort of stuff, which, because I've often heard this actually about Melbourne, where a lot of people go down for a holiday in a couple of days, and they go, oh man, Melbourne was really cool. Like, I really, really enjoyed that. I think I might move down there. But it's not until you know, stay in a place for an extended period of time that you get to see the, you know, all the wrinkles and the realities of what it actually is, and then you can make an informed decision. Because I was going to ask you, Karen, now that you've been there for an extended period of time, would you say that it has swayed you more towards, you know what, I want to live here?
No, not particularly. It hasn't dissuaded me either. So I've always maintained in my mind, you know, it's very hard to live outside of a country. If I was going to do it, I'd probably want something that is really, really similar to where I'm from. So even just like people looking wise and things like this. And probably the main thing that would just drive me crazy is the language, man. Lucas and the other people have probably noticed, like, I'm being a bit more in my shell. It's not necessarily because I'm you know, feeling bad or I'm in a bad mood or anything like that. I'm honestly just tired of speaking Portuguese. I'm tired of kind of getting frustrated at not being able to say what I want, and it's preferable to actually not say anything anymore than to like really go through the effort of like trying to think what I want to say, it be misinterpreted. You know, even just today I made a bit more of an effort because there was a whole group of us, and I remember I was trying to make a joke about, I wasn't trying to make a joke, I was trying to explain what a grinder is, because it was you know, they were talking about grinding your teeth, molendo, or molindo, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, well, we'd say grinding your teeth, and, you know, grinding means rubbing something against up another thing, and I'm trying to explain this. I'm like, ugh, how do you say rub in Portuguese? I have no idea. And then I'm like, oh, and it's also kind of like the tool, like, you know, an angle grinder or something like that. So then I'm trying to show them this tool and bring it up, and then I'm just like, God damn, this is fucking frustrating. It's hard. So for me, probably number one thing, even if the culture was completely bizarre, such as, I don't know, somewhere like Singapore, for example. I don't know Singaporean culture. I have no idea what it's like. I imagine it's quite different to Australia. But if there is more prevalence of English there, I would probably be defaulting to, like, that is where, if I had to move somewhere, that is where I'd prefer to move to. So in my mind, it's like a language barrier is harder than the cultural barrier at the moment for me. I haven't lived anywhere, you know, solidly for more than like a couple of months at a time. So, and I've yet to go through, you know, the full process of moving, like a full expat lifestyle of getting new documents, getting, you know, proper visas and things like this. But yeah, it's the language barriers are fucking hard, man. really, really hard.
Well, and it's also the not the burden, but the continuous effort, like mental effort that you have to give to each and every interaction.
Absolutely.
Where it's not just about being understood. It's every single time you need to put in that extra little effort of, oh, I need to say this. What does this word actually mean? And then the next conversation comes up, and the next conversation comes up. So, everyone's got a bit of a limited amount of energy you're going to dispose to that much thinking power, right? And after, rather than a day's full of talking, if you're trying to do it in a different language, you're going to get halfway through and go, nah, that's it, I'm spent. Like, I don't want to have to think again about how to say this particular thing because I'm just mentally tired. I want to just speak my normal language, I guess, or just something that's a lot simpler. So, yeah, unless it got to the point where you were just incredibly fluid with it, I could always see that to be a challenge for sure.
I've changed my feelings on language learning a bit. I used to think we talked about this a while ago, and your kind of goal was I'd love to be able to speak 50 languages and 10 sentences from each of those languages or something like that. It was something along the lines of that. And I'm like, I'd rather be able to speak 5, but be able to converse in 5 languages. I'm not sure that I want to do that anymore. I remember the amount of effort it took for me to get good in Spanish. And for example, when I was traveling, I ended up with quite a few books, kind of like an A4 book. I've got one here in front of me. How many pages in this? 40 sheets. And I would typically just go through this and create like lists of just words. And if I go back home, I've probably got 4 or 5 books of this, of just Spanish stuff where I've just grammar, example sentences, tough words from books, words from just 100 años de soledad, just trying to get through that. And that's what helped me get to a really good conversational level as well. Obviously, speaking a lot also helped. I'm kind of content with now just being able to be able to read a book and mostly understand someone when they talk to me. And I'm for Portuguese, for example, I don't think I'm ever going to try and bother to really improve my conversational skills. I'd still like to improve reading and comprehension of listening, but in terms of actually speaking, I think the importance of that is gone down quite a lot in my mind, and that'll apply for Spanish, German, and if I learn any other languages as well.
Well, look, man, yeah, I'd probably start swaying towards your end slightly, where I've also noticed that maybe I don't need to absorb 50 languages or more and have like small little tiny sayings. Although I'll be in saying that there's been other nationalities that I've been working with recently, and has been nice to just know, thank you, good morning, that sort of thing. More. I guess it's like customary words as opposed to really knowing much of the language. But I have, and this is an interesting one. So for me, I'm now learning Italian, and I would say right now the Italian that I'm learning is even easier than when I was finding French. But once again, I'm doing it for a purpose in that I'll be on Italy next year, so I want to just try and pick up as much of that language as possible for it. But again, and like you say, it's a little bit, so it gets a little bit more towards the conversational aspect, but just enough, or like just in time. I just want it to be just enough and just in time that I pick up enough language without sacrificing a lot of other knowledge and time and energy that I can devote to other things for its use, and then I'll let it sort of simmer away. And I'm assuming you felt this with your Spanish. I'm now feeling this with French, where there's, unless I'm reading it and then it kind of picks up in my mind, especially in the speaking department, it's starting to simmer away, disappear away, in that I can only really recall off the top of my mind right now really just straightforward sayings, but I would have to take me a little bit just to get like, Oh yeah, that's how you say cake or table or whatever else, right? So that's just, and that's the reality. If you're using it, you're going to lose it, and you can only spend so much energy on so much things.
My Portuguese conversational skills are officially better than my Spanish at the moment. If someone was speaking to me in
Really?
Spanish, yeah, I don't think it's that I've lost it per se. It's that I'm finding it very very hard to switch, and switching between English and Spanish. I remember that being a little bit of a struggle, but obviously they're pretty different languages. But Portuguese and Spanish, because they're so similar, the if I try to switch between them, I really really struggle at the moment. So hint hint to maybe what will be coming up in my annual goals in next month. Stay tuned for that. And I do remember
Oh,
just
can't wait. It's going to be learning Russian.
yeah, nah. And I do remember just listening to your French before. I'm thinking, sorry, your book review of the Le Petit Prince, and being like, damn, once French is, he's got something there. I don't know if I honestly don't know how to rate it. It didn't particularly sound so great, but I also didn't understand what you're saying, so I'm like, all right, he's probably got some sort of
I
like your
would probably
pronunciation.
say that you didn't. I probably would say you didn't understand what I was saying. Yeah, not because it's in French, but because of the way I pronounced it.
Yeah.
So I can very much tell you. I think in some of the words that I've been pronouncing, I'm like, oh yeah, this is really messed up.
Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to say. It didn't sound like French when you were reading from the book. I'm like, there's some pieces here and there, but no, it's great that you managed to get through it as well. And I did something similar. I finished the Capitães da Areia, and whilst I was still trying to learn every word, I just had it quickly, quick search beside me on the laptop if it was a word that came up twice or three times that I didn't understand, and that's how I moved on quickly with that. One, I think we should get into some boostergrams, and then I've got one quick topic to end up before we finish up for today, because I know you got a vamoose at
Moose indeed. All right. Well, yes.
7 a.m.
Once again, welcome to the Boostagram Lounge. Mere Mortal Lights. It is a chance for us to just call out the support that we do get in the form of Boostagrams, which is Satoshi's being sent with a message attached. Obviously, you can send through some streaming sats as well through all the good platforms out there that support the value for value model. But there's just a chance for us to call out those that come through a message. And I believe we've only got the one
I think so.
since last time, which is one from Peter, and it's 10 minutes, question mark. Man, that's a lonely life. That's 2,222 sats sent using Fountain.
Now, do you remember what that was in reference to, one?
No, I was just reading it then, and I'm like, 10 minutes, what's that for?
Yeah, so I didn't either, and I've been looking through the transcript, and I've typed in like 10, I've typed in minute, and nothing seems to come up in terms of something like that. We were talking about how we were yapping for 20 minutes and he solved it, but it didn't sound like that. The only other thing was if it was related to the monthly goals, perhaps. But yeah, sorry, Peter, you lost both of us with that one. I'm not.
Yeah, no, I read it earlier. Like I read it at the beginning when we were doing the beginning of the podcast, and I was like racking my brain, being like, 10 minutes. What's this 10 minutes for? And I was gonna say whether either he messaged you or if it was like for a book from the book part of things.
No.
But yeah, I wasn't sure.
No, sorry, Peter. We appreciate your sats, but no idea.
I'm not entirely sure as to why, but yeah, that's so good.
Absolutely.
But anyway, that's the Boostagram Lounge so far. So just the one coming through, and look again. I made a little video as well, actually, little video that I posted up on some of the socials saying, part of it as well, like on my side. I really haven't been able to create a lot of content, a lot of pieces in a little while. Once again, I'm still reading, I'm still reading the book that I'm reading, but some of the things we were pushing out the last few months, which is a lot more posts and the quotes and the discussions and some of the videos that I was doing.
Yeah,
just,
when one says we,
like
he means he was doing all that, which I very much appreciate.
Yeah, that's had to take a backseat across some other things I've been having to set up, so that I can start to see the is tranquilization a word, maybe? The settling of things as time moves forward now, which should allow me for some of that, which will be nice. But yeah, look, supporting us with some Boostagrams, it's always really much appreciated, and Peter, very very much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks, Peter.
Karen-
If anyone wants to know more about that, meremortalspodcast.com/support, and I've got a bit of an explanation there.
Correct.
Yep. So last topic one. I've noticed that Tim Ferriss has come back from his bit of retreat or whatever it was that he had. He was gone for about 4 months. And one of the interesting things, I was listening to him with his buddy Kevin Rose, and they call it the random show, and basically it's kind of like this. They talk about just whatever it is that comes to mind, usually with them, because they're kind of both tech nerds. They'll talk about like new technology, book recommendations, media recommendations, new ways of thinking that they've encountered, some bits and bobs of their lives. And what I found really interesting right at the end was, have you listened to that episode out of interest, Juan?
I have not actually. No.
Okay, so a little bit of a spoiler here, but not too much. At the end, Kevin Rose is giving Tim a bit of flack, and he's like, Tim, you don't know how to like calm down and just, you know, feel the zen, not have anything. And Tim's like, no, but I do that. You know, I'll have like 1 month of super intensity and then 1 month where I'm completely off and not doing anything. And I think one of the things I think that Kevin was trying to really get at was, Tim, you don't know how to let go of something when you're interrupted or when it's a non-ideal sort of situation, which kind of reminded me of probably... I guess what you've been going through and maybe what you've learned perhaps as a dad is it kind of feels like you can still have goals, you can still be working for something, but at any given moment, it seems like you have to be willing to give up everything and just be like, I'm doing this now, and this is going to take up the next minute, hour, day, or even week, or perhaps even month. Is that kind of a feeling that you've got from being a dad?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you don't know. In fact, what day was it? I think it might have been Thursday that just gone by. I got up. There was a few things I had to sort out, and so I didn't get to go in the morning for my run. I was going to do that day. I was just training. I was just doing a run, and literally the only time I had to do anything was when my partner had to step away, so we had to. Vienna went down for a nap, and as she was down for a nap, I then had I had like 20 minutes of half hour to have some food, and before sort of going back to work and then looking after her. But I also thought, man, I need to. I wanted to do something, and I haven't done any training, so I was like, oh, you know what I'll do now, Karen. You know, my front balcony downstairs.
Yeah.
I decided to run back and forth on that balcony while I had the camera for her sleeping. And I ran back and forth until I did a kilometer. Just for everyone's just visual awareness, the front balcony that I've got downstairs.
12 meters long, maybe?
4 meters in length, or 5 meters in length.
Really?
So
it's that small? Wow.
There was a lot of back. Yeah, a lot of back and forth. A lot of back and forth. But you know, that's a bit of a story of like, yes. So you know, the impact of that is that, you know, I had planned a 10K run, which converted to just making a work randomly running around just like a little tiny square for a kilometer, and that happens all the time. Where you have to just adjust or let go of other things that you had prioritized, that you had planned because it's just a high priority to do other things.
Yeah. The reason I kind of bring this up is because I see Tim he's in a similar spot to me where it's I'm not equating my success to him, but in terms of what I've wanted to do with my life, I've been able to do it. Like nothing is particularly restricting me from doing what I want to do, which I think is very much the same for him. And he's much older than I am. I think he's mid 40s, maybe early 40s. I'm not exactly sure.
I think he might actually be late 40s.
Late 40s? Could be. There you go.
He's 47 years old.
47, there you go. And at the moment he's single, and he's like wanting to find a partner, and especially he wants to be a dad. So kind of similar, start a family. That's similar sort of position I'm in. Obviously 15 years difference between us. And he's talked about this a couple of times on, he brought it up on the Kevin Rose one, and I found this other show here, which It's called Tim Ferriss's Advice to Become the New Rich, and it's by a girl called Erica Kuhlberg. Never heard of her before. Random podcasting type girl. It's on YouTube as well. That's how I found it. And she was talking to him, and this was from like 4 months ago. And he was kind of reiterating the same thing. A lot of it was just about success, entrepreneurship, money, how to use your time efficiently, all these sorts of things. And I haven't got to the section here, but I can see that he's got a point where he's obviously going to talk about what he's looking for in a relationship. And man, the comments here, I actually found these really interesting because it's him on a different person's platform, and so you get very different comments based on that person's platform. And this is a woman, so I believe probably most of the people replying here are women, and they're just like Tim's describing basically what he's looking for in a girl, and it's basically she's probably going to be like late 20s, early 30s, already had some sort of success in life, but also is content to be content with that success they've had and have a family. And so then having a family and kids isn't going to feel like it's draining, taking her away from her job or career or something like that. But he also wants a kind of like a career type driven person. And all of these people are saying like, he's describing a mature, accomplished, rich, hot young woman, they exist, who also wants to support an almost 50-year-old man with his family wishes and career, which seems like an unlikely scenario. The laundry list of requirements to be accomplished by age 30 and the expectation of putting career development on hold when having kids is a great example of the never-ending pressure on women in this society. And there's a couple of other ones which are related to this sort of thing. And I was like, you know what? I think this is the similar problem with that Kevin was identifying with Tim, which was just, I think he's got to be able to let go of some things, and I'm not sure he's capable of doing that, which is was just kind of like an interesting insight for me because I kind of put myself in a similar boat to him, and I'm like, oh, okay, what are the things I would be willing to give up, and might perhaps need to give up to really get what I want out of life, and what is the most important when I'm looking not just like for the next year in an annual goals, but 5 years, 20 years, 50 years perhaps even down the track. So that was just a bit of an insight for me, and me going like, oh, okay, yeah, you know what, maybe this is like something they've identified in someone similar to me, and I should maybe try and incorporate that into my own type of thinking as well.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd say about that is that the honest reality is that unless you have means, this is specific obviously to having, to being a dad or having a child, is that unless you decide to offload that responsibility or the efforts to somebody else, something else like a service or the support of family or something like that, then it is going to take away from you in one way or another. And this goes to maybe other type of actions that you might need to look after somebody or something that takes you away, perhaps running a business or something, or trying to operate a new business. In that there is just no way that you can keep on doing the things that you were doing before, that you prioritized before, just because of either what A doesn't like land anymore as a priority, and B there's that realization that you cannot do all of the things that you might have had before, and that's like kind of coming into the settling of that's okay, that's also all right, but you'll still then find the frustration sometimes in your day to day where, as you say, you've planned something, things that you've planned before or that you're trying to track, kind of the equivalent if I don't think that this would happen realistically for you, but let's just say that for whatever purpose you were pursuing, you were expecting a kid, or you did have a kid in the next couple of months, something to that effect, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, you now don't have enough time, or you're pursuing something else, whatever. You now don't have the time anymore to do your one handstand that you're pursuing for many, many years, and it's like, oh yeah, you have to like leave that to the side because there's not enough energy anymore to help you progress past maybe the sticking point that you're at. And that's a reality that sometimes comes. Obviously, It's not just that; it could be for anything. But it's the reality of life. I think that there's some trade-offs that come with some of those good things in life as well.
Yeah, and I was thinking, if that's the trade-off that had to be made for a family, I'd be okay with that. I'd be like, yeah, you know what, this is certainly more important in the grand scheme of things. And this is just I just like kind of comparing myself to Tim because he's probably because we're both bald. Honestly, like if he had hair, I'd probably be like, fuck this guy. It's nothing even close to similar to us, but. Because we are very different in a lot of things. Like, he says he struggles with rage and anger a lot, and that's just not something that really occurs with me. And I think back to when he was describing when he got a dog, and he describes how he raised that dog, and it was like he did all the research. He was meticulous in training this dog to the nth degree of, it's almost like the dog never had a life outside of him training the dog. And whilst he makes the case that this was good for the dog as well, I'm also just like, damn, dude, I'm not sure that approach would work with kids, And so how would he be willing to adapt and change when it comes to that sort of things? Yeah, who knows? Anyway, it's a fun little episode to check out. Or those two that I listened.
Yeah, definitely. I've been wanting to check it out, but again, it hasn't been. I have had a lot of time actually to check other things, but it just hasn't been that particular one. So I've got to check it. But one last thing I was going to say to you, because you might know this individual and it kind of relates to a couple of other things that I've talked about in the past. But do you know Nikocado Avocado, the YouTuber?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. What do you know about him, Karen? What do you think of him?
So for those who don't know, Nikocado Avocado, he used to be a YouTuber who was vegan, and he talked about vegan recipes or his lifestyle. It was kind of like vlog related stuff.
Correct.
And at some point, I believe he's still got all of his videos still up, so you can go back to the very beginning and go through them all. And he is pretty prolific, so you'd be going through, probably thousands of hours of content. But you see this degradation of his lifestyle to the point where he starts doing mukbangs. He's no longer vegan anymore or health conscious anymore, and he turns into this like. I'm not even joking when I say fat, disgusting blob who, basically imagine watching like a child in a 200, 300 kilo body is essentially what he's become. And so like
Correct.
he chucks food on his face. Like he's got so much food in front of him that he literally couldn't eat it, but he actually does a pretty decent job at denting into it, which is insane. And usually the comments are things just like, this is a person whose life has become the algorithm, like he chases the views and has sacrificed his health for fame and wealth, is basically what I know
Correct.
about him. Yeah.
Correct. Now, this is all completely true, but I've got a plot twist to the story.
Okay. All
ready?
right. Nice. Yeah. Hit me up.
You would not have seen this because this just only came out 30 minutes ago.
Okay.
Nikocado Avocado, all of the videos that he'd been posting of the eating and stuff like that was videos that he stockpiled 2 years ago.
And is
He
like,
actually
super
just
skinny
came
now?
out and released a new video where he's actually lost all of the weight and he's back to
Oh, nice.
completely being skinny and completely healthy.
Wow. Oh man, that dude
So
has
he
got...
did this. So, all these posts that I'm seeing lately, it's like, Nikocado Avocado planning out his 900 IQ play. And I'll actually show you. I'll send it because it'll be easy. So you've got it in front of you.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah. But basically,
2 steps ahead.
What I wanted to bring up about it was just on my side. I've had a lot of things been going on, and I haven't. One of old would have talked a lot about, hey, I'm planning on doing this, and this is happening, and I'm doing this, guys, and and I've been very quiet. I've been very quiet on that front. More so just been stuck in the doing, and it kind of reminded me of what this Nikocado Avocado thing that I just Nikocado Avocado. It popped up, and I'm like, it feels that way. Kind of feels that. Obviously, I'm not fat and disgusting, but I'm there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes to accomplish something, but I'm going to wait until it's complete before I kind of talk about it doing it first and then letting the words come out. But I thought you might find that interesting, Karen, because I did not see that coming.
Yeah, no, all the comments are just like, the words "what the fuck" have never felt so appropriate in my life. Let's be real. This is what we hoped for, rather than facing his passing due to complications caused by his heavy weight. Yeah, good on him. Obviously had a lot of mental problems, and hopefully has got over them. But yeah, this is crazy. Wow, good on him.
So if we ever, I'll leave it with that, mere mortalites. If you want to, an example of taking your actions, letting your actions speak louder than your words, look no further than the legend Nikocado Avocado.
I mean,
fooled the entire internet, made lots of money by getting fat quickly, probably, and then stockpiled lots of videos, and then just became back to being healthy.
I honestly thought you were gonna say he came out and was just said this was all AI. Everything here was AI, and I've been doing this for like 5 years, and I just had access to AI before anyone else did. That's honestly, I thought that's where you were going to go with that, and just be like, holy shit. But yeah, damn, redemption arc right there. Good on him.
Yeah. Anything else, Ben? Anything else you want to
No.
add?
So just for those who tuned in now, and we talked about this pre-hand, we will do another Meanderings episode next week. I've had some changes of plans, so I will be able to be available for that. So another Meanderings next week. Then the 2 weeks after that, I will probably be in New Zealand, and one of those I know for sure I'll be traveling and on a plane. The other one I am unsure of, so we'll see how we go. And then back in Australia, early October. Let's go.
Let's go,
boy.
Yes, you will be seeing some live and in-person conversations that come up between myself and Karen. There's a few podcast conversations I'm also lining up with a couple of guests. There's some cleanup and timings of things that I've got to do, but they'll get there. So that'll be good fun to also see.
Love it.
Spending a bit more time on the podcast and a few other things like that. It's gonna be nice. I'm actually looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, it's gonna be good fun.
All right. Well, me and Mortalites, we're gonna leave it there once again. Value for value show here. So time, talent, treasure. You heard us talk about the treasure a little bit earlier, which is you sending through Satoshis through to ourselves and any other good platforms. You can use the Immortals podcast.com/support if you want to see the details how you can do that. Time and talent as well. You can send through some messages around the things that we're doing. If we're talking about driving and a place that's actually worse at driving, or even more tattoos. Of course, letting us know it's interesting, and time. Obviously, just sharing the podcast with other individuals, listening to the content that we're putting out is always very much appreciated. Karen, unless you have anything else to add, and I think I'm going to leave it there. So me and Mortalites, take care, be well, wherever you are in the world. Juan, out.
Adios, guiding out. Bye.
Bye.